Welcome back to the Time for Heroes podcast. This week's guest is Jamie Crellin. Jamie Crellin is the manager of Three Bridges FC, which are a football team in the 9th tier of the English Football League. We spoke to Jamie about his football career as a player before getting into management and ultimately taking Three Bridges to their best ever FA Cup run. We also discussed Jamie's coaching academy and juggling all of this with a career in teaching. And at the end, Jamie picked his heroes to come for dinner. Hope you're all enjoying the podcast. I'll be back soon with another episode. Thanks very much. If you would like to support the podcast, you can do so in many ways by leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you get them. Another way of supporting the podcast is you could buy me a coffee. Buy me a coffee is a way of donating money to the podcast, which I can then use to grow the podcast by paying my Zoom subscription so that I can record an interview in one sitting. So if you would like to do that, go to ko-fi.com/timeforheroespod. That's ko-fi.com/timeforheroespod. Thanks very much. Yous are all heroes. Right, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Jamie Crellin. You are the manager of Three Bridges FC, which is a football club in the Isthmian League, if I've said that right, which is kind of like, what is it? Is it non-league, we would call it?
Yeah, step 4 in the non-league pyramid.
Yeah. So, just if you want to start off, where you grew up and what life was like for you as a young kid, and just
yes, I grew up in Brighton, which is obviously a city which is unbelievable as a place. Went to a school called St Nicholas, which is just in Portslade, which is kind of a little town off of Brighton. Grew up there, and just great family in a loving home, to be honest. But it's really weird, actually. I was talking to my partner, or I don't know if I was talking to my partner, but I was thinking, my childhood's a real blur. It's really strange. Like, I've only got real random flashbacks that I have of my childhood. Why, I don't know. But I just knew that from the minute I could walk, my dad had a ball at my feet, to be honest. Like every kid up until now, I just had a ball at my feet. Every day was football. Every evening was football. Every weekend was football. And it was all the way through until 18, really, that was my life. Was just football. That's all I knew was football. Mm-hmm. And obviously it had a lot of positives, but also a lot of negatives as well, I found.
Did education, did that take a hit then? Were you just solely focused on football?
Yeah, it did, to be honest. We're probably going to it a little bit later on down the line, but I was actually only diagnosed with ADHD about 12 months ago. Right. So when I look back at my childhood now, a lot of it kind of makes sense. Obviously, back then it didn't. In terms of concentration, didn't really like school unless it was PE or maths, which was a subject that I was intrigued in and loved. Obviously, back then I didn't know that I had ADHD. Things like that, obviously, back then wasn't really spoken about. Being brutally honest, the kid with ADHD was probably the kid that was climbing up the walls. That was all it was known as back then. And kind of when I was at school, it was unspoken about it. It was, and obviously, no disrespect to any parents, they probably didn't want to brand any kid with that, because it was kind of, back then, it was kind of frowned upon, wasn't it? Like, just the terminology, there was no real research into it or anything like that. So looking back at childhood and school, that probably did have a bit of an effect on how I perceive school. And obviously the education system's great, but it's not great for everyone. So yeah, in terms of school, listen, I wasn't a devil child. I was a little bit cheeky like most, but I just loved PE and I loved maths. And if it wasn't them two, I was just so disengaged. I I couldn't think of anything worse than just sitting in a room listening to something I'm not interested in. So, and I guess that's a lot of people, but for the listeners I was in that I didn't want to be in was a real struggle.
Yeah.
Obviously, football was a massive. The times I enjoyed football, it was a massive break from that. And just you're in your own zone, aren't you? It's a safe space. You're doing what you love, and that was kind of any sport up until 12, 13, really, and then football really took over.
Were you supporting Brighton at this time?
No, I wasn't. Obviously, back then, no one supported Brighton. Obviously, I was playing at the With team, which holds about, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's basically a running track. It's a sports centre. It's got a pitch in the middle of a running track. And then they just made it into their home when they obviously got rid of the Goldstone. But it held about 3,000, 4,000. The pitch was about 40 metres away from the stands. What makes me laugh is now they've gone obviously to their new ground. It's back to being a leisure centre, and I think like a county team play there, which shows the standard of the actual ground. So when I was a kid, no one supported Brighton unless like your dad played for them or he was mad, true Brighton fan. No one supported him really. So I've always been United.
Manchester United.
Yeah, Man United. My dad supported them, loved them massively. So I just followed in his footsteps. I think for about 6 months old, I had a Man United kit. So there was no getting out of that one.
Right.
And I suppose that's everyone in it. Wherever your dad supports, you go on to support, really.
There's probably more people in Brighton support Manchester United than there is in Manchester.
They do, you're right. But it's obviously funny now because obviously I'm in education and I've got a football academy. I see so many kids. Like I do football parties and that as part of the coaching business I've got. But now it's 20 kids, 18 of them have got Brighton kits on. It's like back in my day, that would have been Man United, Liverpool or Arsenal, and that was it.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot of young boys, obviously, because they've got a Premiership town on their home ground. It's fascinating for them, isn't it? They see them as like superstars.
So, what age did you start playing football?
I started playing from, must have been, Dad had a ball at my feet from about 2. Without blowing smoke up my own arse back then from a real young age, I was quite good. And then I went to Brighton Centre of Excellence, which couldn't sign until you was 9, but I was there from about 6. And then from 6 till 9, when you aren't officially signed with anyone, I was on trial at like Palace, Arsenal, Chelsea, all of them, to be honest, at that point. But with my dad, he just worked in like a factory warehouse, so there was no chance I was getting to the middle of London for 5:30, 6 p.m. starts 3 times a week. So I just chose for Brighton, and I played from there till I was from 6 to 16, really. Got released at 16 from the Centre of Excellence. It weren't an academy back then; it was a Centre of Excellence because there was obviously only in League One. And to be honest, from 12 to 16, I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I couldn't stand it. But it's one of those things, once you're in the system, and obviously my dad had put so much time and effort in, looking back now, it must have had a huge strain on his life and like what he gave up for me to be able to go and play football with. Was training 3 nights a week and then on a Sunday, he could have been Dagenham, Oxford, Wickham, everywhere. It weren't local. You're talking someone that gets 2 days off a week. 2 of them days he's either watching me training or he's travelling halfway around the country to watch me play 45 minutes of football. So once I got to about 12, I just weren't enjoying it. I just didn't like the system. I didn't like the way it was run. And even back then, I was quite aware of that it wasn't right, if that makes sense. But I didn't know what wasn't right in terms of the way it was run and just the whole clickiness of academy football. I just hated it. So from about 12 to 16, I just didn't want to be there. And then obviously I didn't get a scholar at 16, which was, for me, it was kind of a blessing. Obviously, it was hard to take at the time, and I think my dad was upset about it. Obviously, it was his dream as well, so that was a bit upsetting. But obviously, after coming out of that for 12 months, it was like, that's a big relief. I'm out of that now. But from, as I say, going back to what I just said, from 12 to 16, I just could never have said that I weren't enjoying it. It just.
Do you think then, obviously, you weren't diagnosed with the ADHD? Do you think that probably had a part in it as well? Maybe the kind of the regimentedness of it as well maybe didn't help.
Yeah, I don't know if I could link them two together. That's me being brutally honest. I just didn't like that there was no freedom. Like I could play football at school. I love scoring goals. I love celebrating. Like for me, playing school football, park football, mates. You know what kids' imaginations are like. you score a goal down the park, you think you just scored in front of 30,000 at Wembley. But Brighton was so regimented and it was so old school, and you could only wear black boots and you had to have your shirt tucked in and you had to have your socks pulled up, and if you scored, you couldn't celebrate. It was just, I just didn't like the way it was run. It was like robots. Nowadays, like, obviously I've got close links with academies, it's improved massively. And I just didn't like all the ego-ness from the parents, and I could feel the environment that I was playing in. It just weren't a nice environment for a young lad to be around. For them, it was great because obviously they've pulled one through. I was actually in Lewis Dunk's year group. So they're probably looking at it like they've done their job. They've pulled one through that's gone on to captain of the club. So they've done their job. But the stats, I actually think a lot of the boys in my age group, not many of them up to 25 or even playing football, they'd all quit, which it can't be a coincidence.
What position were you?
That's a good question, actually. So from 6 to 12, I was a striker. I used to score, and I was scoring, honestly, 100 goals a season, even at centre of excellence at like under 12s. And then I kind of stopped growing. I was quite small from 12 to 14. Right. And that's another reason I didn't really like it. Because I was quite natural in all positions. And I never really had a set position from 12 to 15. Because if like the right back was short, I could go and play right back and I'd be good there. If the centre half was short, I'd go and play there and I'd be good. Whereas where other people couldn't do that, they didn't move them players. Like Lewis Dunk, for example, he was a centre half. He couldn't have dreamed of playing anywhere else. So he played centre half for 12 years from growing up to when he was 18. Whereas with me, they never really knew where I was best. Because I was, say, as a 7 out of 10 in every position, I was never really an 8 or a 9 out of 10 in one position. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
I mean, sometimes that can be a godsend, and in other times it can
I have that chat with a lot of parents now. Like, don't get me wrong, it'd be great, but then if you've also got 2 players that are better than you, or 1 player in each position, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So on the flip side, if you're just class in one position, he's a right winger, that's where he plays. Sometimes it can be more beneficial. So I started up front and I dropped in, played on the wings a little bit because I was small. So I obviously went from centre forward to move me out wide, which made sense. Then I dropped into centre midfield. Loved it in there because you're just on the ball all the time, aren't you? When I went from 16 to 19 to 20, I played centre midfield and then played the last 3 or 4 years at centre half, which, to be honest, I felt most comfortable in and I absolutely loved it. But that was just pure fluke, to be honest, playing centre half because someone was injured one day and again I dropped back. And it was like, geez, that was good, and then just carried on there.
Well, I mean, I always played centre half, and then the last couple of years I started playing left back. But I couldn't play midfield. All the best players play midfield. All the good players play there for a reason. I like to just get the ball and get away to somebody that can play.
Can do something else with it.
Yeah. So once you never get your scholarship, then what happened there?
So from that point, I went on to do, because obviously at that point I was a little bit lost in life, to be honest. Because although I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, the other half of my brain was gearing me up for me to do that. Does that make sense? I wasn't really planning anything else. Because I'd been at Brighton for so long, from 6 to 16, I thought it was almost guaranteed that I was going to be getting a scholar. Because I was still performing well under 15s, under 16s. I was always one of the ones that played up a year and things like that. So looking from the outside in, it was probably like, if you was going to list 6 or 7 players that got a scholar that year, probably 95% of people would have put my name forward. So although I didn't really want it, subconsciously I was gearing up to do it. So obviously when that happened, it was kind of like life come crumbling down. And then there was a college lecturer called Dabba Kilpatrick, brilliant coach, brilliant human being, to be honest, great bloke. He ran a college program at Chichester College, which is about 45 minutes from me. And he just said, look, come here, enjoy yourself, you get your education, football's still a good standard. Scouts at that time still watch the games here. So it was kind of a win-win, really. So at that point, it was almost a fresh start for me because all my schoolmates were going to a local college around by me, which would have been the easy option, but I didn't really want to do that. So I kind of broke away from all that and just went for it and went to try college. So that was nice 3 years, to be fair. It was kind of a bit more relaxed. Just started enjoying football again, enjoyed just being a kid, because that's another thing. From 12 to 16, football was my life. Like
Yeah,
my
you
mates
must
were
do.
parties, and to be honest, I gave it absolutely everything. I can't look back and say I've got any regrets because I gave it everything I had. My mates were going parties, drinking. I didn't do any of that, and I didn't do any of that until really quite late. Like I didn't really start going out till 19, 20, 21 when I really knew that like that dream's over now. Like start moving on with life really.
So you've done all your college and stuff like that. How did that lead you into teaching then?
Yeah, so I've done 3 years at Chai College, which was a BTEC sport course. Again, just done it because it was sport. I didn't really know anything else. And then went on to Chai Uni and done a PE teaching degree. Um, that was tough because I loved it, but I hated it. And I had a big bugbear on that. So I didn't choose to do the 4th year, which was the final teaching year, because it was a 3-year course, and then you've done one more year to get your final teaching qualification. But I just couldn't get my head around the fact that I was on a sports coaching degree, and I had so many chats with the lecturers about this, and they could all see my point, but there was no real answer. It was the fact that we're on a sports coaching degree that, okay, I get you don't have to be totally sporty to be on it, but a lot of these people, they want to go on to be a PT, PE teacher. It's that kind of group of cohort that wanted to go on to them kind of things in life. And you had a lot of people there that had never played sport, which, okay, granted, you don't have to be great at sport to teach sport. I get that. And there was a lot of people that weren't in shape. It was just, what's the word? Weren't a bit naive, but weren't sports people, if that makes sense. Like their background wasn't too sporty. This isn't being horrible, but they could write and they could read, so they were getting top marks. So when we were leaving that course, like all the practical lessons, I was getting top whack marks. I was getting whatever, I don't know how they graded it. I can't remember whether it be a 5 or an A star, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then it comes, but that was only like 12% of the whole course. And then the other bit was all made up with the essays and all that, which I was awful at. I'm dyslexic. I've got the ADHD. I just hate writing. Hate it. Can't stand it. So I was like chatting to these people, and it's like I'm going to come out of a 2-2, which is one of the lower uni marks. And you've got someone that, one bird, she'd never done the practical. She was so overweight and so out of shape that she'd never done the practical, and she comes out with a first-class degree in sports coaching, and I just couldn't get my head around it. So I just had enough of uni at that point. I was like, get me into the real world. I was 22, 23, wanted to start earning some money. So I left at that point, and I went and got a job at high school as a pastoral member of staff, which is like support and behaviour and that in a secondary school, which was a real deprived school. And I loved that, to be honest. That was great. But as you may or may not know, in education, without that final year, the teaching bit, the wage is capped, and there's not too many other places that you can go. So then I moved on. Like the behaviour was great, but there weren't anything in it. And then it kind of come a bit of a crossroads where a friend of mine, there was a PE job going, a sports coach job going in a local primary school, which sounded great. So when I had a meeting with the head there, and it just worked well for both. So took that 3 years ago in the school, just doing the PE teaching. And then the last 12 months, they had this opportunity come up where they get funded places in schools for people that have already got degrees, but to go and do their final year that had never done it. Right. And at that time in my life, it felt perfect. It's something I wanted to do. I wanted to challenge myself. So the school put me through the PGCE, which I've just completed over the last 12 months, which again was great. It was good.
Brilliant. Congratulations for that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So is that you then? Have you got a full-time place then at the school?
Yeah, so I've done my placement, which was primary education teaching. So that was, again, it weren't something I massively wanted to do, but I had to do it to get the qualification. So I've done a year in the classroom teaching all sorts, maths, English, science, whatever the primary syllabus is. Got the qualification. And when I come out, the school's amazing, to be honest. They said, look, where's your passion line? I said, that was great, but my passion's still sport. So they gave me a role back doing what I was doing, back on the qualified wage and through the teacher route, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's me set now. And then alongside that, I've obviously got a coaching academy, which is pretty full on now, pretty full time as well. So mad busy.
How did the coaching academy come along? Is that through Three Bridges?
Yes, no. So I kind of missed a little bit of a gap there, to be honest. So when I was I left the uni. I had a best friend there kind of at the time. We basically lived exactly the same path. We both got released, both went to college together, both went to uni together. And I come out and I just said, look, I love coaching kids. Let's set up just a little football academy at the time. This was 5 years ago. So the break, when I kind of a crossover, when I started in the school, I knew that I kind of needed some extra income, but I also was going to have a lot of time at half terms and things like that because teachers get obviously all that time off in the half terms. Mm-hmm. So let's just start doing little holiday camps to fill up the time. So it started out as a plan just to do holiday camps around the local area. I think we had about 25 kids on the first camp, which was good. And then it's kind of just snowballed now. We've got about 400 kids training weekly with us. Half-term camps are rolling about 300-400 kids every camp. So starts tomorrow, actually. I don't know if half-term's the same up where you are, but our half-term's tomorrow.
We've just had a week off there.
You've just had yours already?
Yeah, because our schools start earlier than yours.
Oh, okay. Actually, I remember that. I had Scottish neighbours once, and they always used to come down. So they weren't Scottish neighbours, it was their nan. So they used to come and see nan, but they used to come down about 3 weeks earlier. We were still at school, but then they used to go back a lot earlier. I remember that. So yeah, it started, as I was going back to that, it just started, and it's just snowballed really. Got contracts with leisure centres, and it's, to be honest, it's a full-time job now, but it's just, I love the teaching, so I do both.
That's brilliant. Whereabouts are you doing these then? Are you based in Crawley, or are you still kind of commuting?
Nah, so I'm actually, from where I live to Crawley's about 40 minutes away. So I do it all around where I live. So it's like Lancing, Worthing, Portslade. It's within about 10 miles of each other, like the 4 or 5 campuses that we've got. Right. But that's nowhere near Crawley, to be honest. It's about a 35-minute drive.
Yeah.
Down by the coast.
So how did Three Bridges come about? Were you playing?
It's a bit of a random one, actually, but we'll go into it. It's never really been spoken about. So when I left Brighton, I went to Lewis, which was like the top non-league club in the area. Great club, to be honest. Great club. Had a great time there. But the club itself was going through a bit of a tough time. Like they're getting relegated out of the conference at the time, so they kept chopping and changing manager. And the manager that I was with, I was kind of going from 18s to that first team transition. So I had a year at first team there, which was great. I was playing in the Conference South at 17, 18, which was unbelievable. It was obviously like 2 away from the first step of pro level. So for me, it was great. Mm-hmm. And then the manager that I was with got the sack and went to a club called Hastings, which was missions from me. It was about an hour and a half. But again, 19, 20, I said I'd go along with him. It was still a very good standard. So I moved with him to go Hastings. Done 2-3 years there, which was great. Played in the 3rd round of the FA Cup against Middlesbrough, which was unbelievable. And then I went to Worthing, which is local to me. And that all just went Pete on, to be honest. We had a flight at Guernsey once. We played Guernsey. Do you know where Guernsey is?
Yeah.
For some mad reason, they were in our league, and when you played them away, you had to get up at 5 o'clock. Your flight was at 6. You'd get there at 10. So we waited around till kick-off at 3, and then as soon as the game's finished, you're put back onto a coach straight back to the airport to fly back to Gatwick. Right. So we had Worthing away, and I was captain at the time. We had a real young side. I was only young myself. I must have been 23, 24. Real young side, and anyway, we was at the airport at Guernsey. I can laugh looking back at it now, but at the time it wasn't so funny. So we're at the airport at Guernsey. We had a 2-hour delay. This airport's just like a warehouse. There's nothing going on. It's dead. So anyway, one of the coaches at the time, and this is where it kind of went wrong. He went to duty free and he got 3 bottles of vodka, and he's come back and he's like, boys, we just have to drink while we're passing time. And I wasn't a massive drinker. I never have been. So went to Guernsey. I started drinking anyway. We was all pissed. But the directors of the club were there at the time on the flight as well. And they were more steaming than everyone, leading all the party basically. So I'm a young kid, I'm the captain, but at this time I'm not thinking about anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Setting the standard and things like that. I was too young. So we got on the flight. Everyone was steaming. Anyway, the club ended up getting fined 10 grand. But because we was all prattling about in the air and things like that, and the air hostesses reported it and whatnot. So anyway, when we landed, it all come back to the club, and they just said, look, the manager at the time, I was a good friend with him. He said, look, I've got to get rid of someone to show that we're doing the right thing. He's like, I'm getting rid of 3 or 4, and I was one of the ones that at the time was given the boot, basically. So that's when Three Bridges come about. Paul was obviously, they were league below, I think, at the time. So he just rang me up on the off chance. He said, do you want to come down? And to be honest with you, I went there, I loved him, and I just loved the club, and that was it. So it was a blessing, really. So I just absolutely loved it there from the minute I got there.
How long were you there then? What year was that you went to Bridges?
That must have been 2016, maybe 15, 16. So I played under him for 3 or 4 years. And then I had an ankle injury, which just ripped me off. Worst day of my life. I cried my eyes out in the physio room when I had saw a surgeon and had an operation. He just said, look, mate, you're never going to play again. So that took a bit of a time to process. But at the time, Paul was he's obviously chairman of the club and he was a manager of the club. But he was coming to a point where he didn't really want to do it. He got a manager in. That didn't work out for whatever reason or not. He took back over, and then it kind of just fell hand in hand that I was ready to go for it and he was ready to give it up, kind of thing. So I took the leap of faith then.
Yeah, because obviously, as I mentioned, I did my research and I found these clippets on YouTube of the dressing room, and that's obviously you're in that. So that's when I realised that you played for the club as well.
Yeah, I captained them for 3 or 4 years before.
I did contact Paul, but he's not get back to me. I couldn't find the full episodes anywhere. But
he's a character, isn't he?
You've not even changed much there. You're still got the same head of hair and all that. At Three Bridges then at that time, what position were you playing? Obviously, if you were getting older or whatever, and like you were picking up injuries or whatever, were you playing at the back then?
Well, yeah, when I first signed there, I was a centre midfielder. That was the kind of the role that I've had for the last 4 or 5 years. From about 23, I was right, I'm a centre midfielder. I'm enjoying it here, getting on well here. And I went to Bridges as centre midfielder. It was only actually been about 6 months ago in there, the centre half got injured. And I said to Paul, I said, I'll slot back in there. It was just at half time. I said, I'll slot back into the second half, no problem. To be honest, it was the best 45 minutes I had at the club. And from that point, he said, you ain't coming out. And because I enjoyed it, I said, yeah, that's fine with me. And from there, I played centre half for the last 4 years. But up until the injury I've never had an injury. I've been injury-free, to be honest, for the most of my career. And then it was just an ankle one where I've got no cartilage left. So it's just bone on bone. So there's just no chance of anything repairing it.
It's heartbreaking that as well when it's something that you love as much. I mean, I've been night shift for a year and a half now, and I've not been able to play 5-a-sides. And it breaks my heart every Thursday night when I get into the work and I see the boys going off to play 5-a-sides. So I mean, if you're playing proper football every week and then you get told you can't do it anymore, it must be heartbreaking.
It's one of those where you never really understand. Like my dad's football mad. Like, that was his life, football. And he always said to me, he said, just play until you can never play. And then when you're young, you kind of just think, yeah, you're talking shit. And then when you actually can't play, you realise that you're like that. It's unbelievable. There's no feeling that replaces it.
So were you captain in the club as well?
Yeah, so literally about 6 months ago, and at Bridges, he made me the skipper, which was quite nice. But we just got on, me and Paul just formed this relationship that was just, it was like dad and son, really. It was unbelievable. Still like that now, which is nice.
Well, obviously, if you captained the club and then you went on to become manager, your captain at the moment, Brannan,
yeah.
I see he's coaching under 18s, is that right?
Right, yeah.
So is that, do you think there'll be the same sort of progression? Obviously not pushing you out the door, but at some point do you think it would be, they'd look at him as moving him into a manager role?
Yeah, definitely. Brannan's great. Brannan was actually at Worthing at the time I was there.
Right.
So when I went to Bridges, he stayed at Worthing because he weren't too involved in everything that happened. So when his time up was Worthing, I was actually one of the ones that pulled him across to the club. not saying I didn't know anything about his coaching back then. He's just a great player. He's unbelievable. But yeah, I think what he's done with the 18s has been superb. But I speak to him a lot now. He's one of my best friends, and he says, thinking of giving up. Like he said, this will be my last year. And I said to him, I said, mate, just keep playing until you physically can't. But that would definitely be a progression route for him. Definitely become a manager one day.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it, especially at that level that you're playing at. You can see what the role of a captain is. He keeps the team ticking over. He takes the ball for the defence, and he kind of links the defence in the midfield. He's like a proper midfielder. He's like my style of midfielder, and you can see that's the best role, I think, to get into management, because when you're captaining and you're sitting in that midfield area, you're seeing all aspects of the game. So yeah, I mean, like obviously there've been a lot of under 18s have been getting first team games with yourself as well. Is that down to your relationship with Brannan and Brannan being able to bring players to you and give them a chance?
Definitely. To be totally honest, when I first took the job, the club's reputation was horrendous. It was awful. A lot of the recruitment was Southeast London, had no loyalties to the club, had nothing really. Changed and chopped and changed players every 6 or 7 weeks. There was no culture there. There was no philosophy. It weren't a nice place really. So that's the first thing I said as soon as I took the job. I said, look, this is going to take 3 or 4 years to repair. Because honestly, you couldn't recruit a decent Sussex player for love nor money. And we're only just getting rid of that reputation now, which is slowly going. When I first took the job and you speak to players, it was impossible just to convince them to come down and see the place. But yeah, so I said to Paul, I said, we've got to rip this all up and start again. So putting a good youth structure in, obviously Brannan runs now, and I said to him, this club should have players playing that live in Crawley or live in Sussex at least. Just what it does for a club, like we were playing home games and the boys were back on the train by 5:10. Like there's no one at the club after 5:30 on a Saturday. It used to hurt me being a Sussex boy. 1 or 2 would stay for a beer, and it's like, where is everyone? Like this is a non-league football club that thrives and survives on that kind of thing. So to be fair, we've shifted the whole culture now. I'd say 90% of the team are from Sussex or within 30 minutes of the club. If it's the other way going into London, so they're still local to the club, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And just a real family feel and a young feel. Obviously, the club's limited to resources. I don't know what non-leagues are like in Scotland, but non-league teams down this way, they spend a fortune. And we definitely ain't got that kind of money. So I've kind of had to look at it from another avenue of going, how can we become good without the resources that other clubs have got? And that was one of the first things we said, look, let's get a youth team in that's going to play the same way as us, got a decent coach that can feed players through. I think now in the first team, we've got 6 players that come through the youth team. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely see that it's a family club. Like I've been like 2 or 3 games, and the atmosphere, like everybody's pulling together, everybody's pulling in the same direction, and there's young kids for all the younger teams. They're all there watching the games, so it's brilliant the way it's run, and that's only going to get better in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's another thing. To be fair to Paul, when he was obviously doing chairman and manager, listen, that's a big job. It's a tough job for anyone.
Yeah.
So when I took over, I said, look, you just concentrate on the business side of it from that point of view, and I'll run the football. So the place is unrecognisable now from where it was in terms of he's now had time to obviously fund and get money into things like the bar and the changing rooms and the things like that make people want to come to the club. The pitch is unbelievable. 3 years ago, that pitch had no grass on it for 6 months a year. He's had time to obviously now invest back into the club to make it a nicer place for people to want to come. So it's kind of worked well with both of us kind of trading each other off, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Probably the next thing I want to talk to you about is your style as a manager and your tactics. Have you got a specific set of tactics that you, obviously, like you mentioned, that the under-18s are playing the same style of football as yourself, so obviously you will have a philosophy in how you want to play the game. So how did you come about that, and how's that kind of changed over the years, and how do you think you've evolved as a manager?
That's a good question. Also, everyone's got the way they want football to be played and how it should look, which I've definitely got. And that was kind of just watching teams and from Premiership all the way down to grassroots, really, just to see how I like football to look, which I've definitely got an idea of what it looks like now. And it's a real trade-off in non-league because obviously you've got A, what you want it to look like, and then B, the resources available, and kind of trading off, this is what it should look like, this is what's available, kind of meeting in the middle somewhere of how it's going to look, if that makes sense. So that was a real challenge in the first 6 months of understanding, right, that's a real clear focus of what it should be looking like, but resources available, you're kind of going to have to, it's going to have to give somewhere of meeting in the middle, if that makes sense, of player capability without being no disrespect. Like, everyone watches Pep, but if the right back can't do what Pep wants him to do, he goes and signs a new one. Whereas if your right back can't do what you want him to do, it ain't as easy as just going to get a new one. And obviously coaching takes time. So it's kind of that trade-off of what you want it to look like, where we're at, and kind of finding the midterm of where we're going to go with it, which has been good. The boys have brought into it. It's been great. And yeah, it's been fantastic with it, to be honest.
What sort of managers do you look at and admire?
To be honest, like, I do watch a lot of pro football. I don't watch enough of it as I should. I just find it so far away from where we are in terms of our level. It's kind of irrelevant. Like the things I was just saying, it's Pep's great, but everyone could be great if you've got that amount of money, if that makes sense. Like, just teams around by me that I've always played against that have been hard to play against, teams like Worthing, Hastings, and it's no coincidence that them teams have had great coaches, if that makes sense. So kind of just watching videos of them, going to watch them at every possibility. When we've played against them, them games have been so hard to play in, and they kind of play the same sort of way. So being totally honest, my style comes from what I found hardest to play against. So just kind of retaining possession, playing through the thirds, playing out from the back, that kind of thing, which has obviously developed a lot. Like, Pep done, that's great, because the whole football pyramid's changed now. Like 10 years ago, everyone just go back to front so quick, didn't they? So sometimes it can sound a bit cliche how we play out from the back, but no, we do try and play a bit.
But that's the thing, obviously. I came and watched these against Crawley, and for all intents and purposes, you could see the difference. It was a struggle for you to get up the pitch. Really, you ended up, you get beat 5-0. Then I came and seen you a couple of days later. Was it against Verdinians or something their name was? And the difference in the football then, like watching you, and you could see that you were trying to play out for the back, and you played the same way the full game, and I really enjoyed it. That's, as I say, that's where I kind of fell in love with Three Bridges. So, I mean, I like your defence. I thought the defence. I watched the first half at one end of the pitch, and then the second half at the other end of the pitch. I just watched the defence. The keeper, the boy with the blonde hair, Leon, is it?
Oh yeah,
excellent keeper. The centre half with the red hair, Tad Bromwich, I think his name was.
Yeah.
And there was a wee boy. I don't know if he was right back or left back. Joe Stone.
Joe Stone, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they were the three, obviously, in Brannan. They were the players that stuck out for me.
Leo and Stoney are two that have come through Brennan's 18s last year.
Right. Well, I mean, two of the best players there. That's what I thought anyway. So why don't we touch on your cup run? Because obviously I comes up the road and I added using Twitter, and I was getting like clips of Three Bridges every week. And this FA Cup run it was going and going. I thought you were going to get there. I was just hoping that you were going to get to the first round proper, so the telly. So obviously, like, this is a club record for yourselves getting to this stage of the FA Cup. Obviously, no a record for you if you've already played against Middlesbrough. But was it hard coaching the boys to up the level for these sort of games? Because you played some big teams, like obviously the Lewis game that's a big result for you.
Yeah, that was massive. Yeah, the cup run, that was great. Obviously, over the last 10 years, the club at Bridges, we haven't got past round. The first round for the last 10 years, there's been a real stigma, and it's been kind of turned into a bit of a joke now. Just getting past the first game was the big one for me. One, for the stigma, and two, obviously at that level of the competition, you 9 times out of 10 play against someone from the league below, which we did. So it's kind of like it's just a banana skin in it. It's like if we win, we're expected to. If we lose, it's a shambles. So getting past that first one for us was just a mental block, really, of right, that one's done now. And then it kind of just snowballed. The third round after that, we had again team lower league. So it was like, right, let's prepare properly. If we prepare properly and we play right, then we're going to get something out of the game, which we did. And then we played one more, and I think they were Deal Town, was it? Again, in fair, the draw was kind of like we played the first 3 games with teams from league below, but they're decent teams. But I knew if we prepared right and we played how we could, we should win them. They're all at home. So although the cup run was great, and listen, I wouldn't change it for the world. And I said that to the boys because the boys start going on about bonuses and things like that. And I said, you're paid to win football matches, and that's what you've done against teams that you should beat. Does that make sense? So up until the Lewis game was games that we should have won on paper. I know on paper it's easier said than done, but I'm kind of looking at them going, right, they're winnable games. We've got to go and win games like that if we want to be taken seriously this year, which we've done. And to be fair to the boys, they were great. And then obviously the Lewis one was a big one, and I went to watch them the round before, and they beat Sheppey 8-0, who were playing our division. It sounds bizarre, but even after watching that, I said to my assistant, I said, if we set up properly here, I said we'll beat them. And I knew they wouldn't change how they play. And I knew they were kind of where they were dangerous and kind of things like that. They got a big number 9 that everything went into. So after that, we had 10 days from me watching them then to playing them on the Saturday. And we just hammered home game plan, how we're going to set up. Down to a T, to be honest. And went there Saturday, mastered it, and then obviously scored in the 96th minute.
Yeah.
And like, everyone's thinking, is that the chance gone? And it's like people speak, they're talking, that's your chance done. But I generally thought from that night on that we would go on to win the game because I knew we couldn't travel well. They hadn't won many away from home at that point either, which was surprising. But I knew our places, once you get to our place, it's quite horrible for a lot of teams. Like, just don't know, teams find it hard to play out our gaff. So I genuinely hope and believe that we go and beat them. So that was obviously great. That was an unbelievable night. And then Hereford was tough, but I thought they'd be better than they were, and that was a disappointing thing. I thought they'd come there and absolutely pop us. After 45 minutes, when 0-0, our centre half was strong on his knee, and I should have brought him off, but I went on his word. He said, "Look, I'm fit to continue," and he wasn't. And then he kind of copped up for the first goal. And as soon as they got that first goal, it was like mountain to climb, really.
Yeah, it kind of they took the momentum out of the team as well, wasn't it? I mean, because obviously, like, drawing that game with Lewis 1 each, and then getting them back to Jubilee Field, and you hammered them. You know what I mean? So the confidence must have been right up, and to go in at half time 0-0 with Hereford, you must have been flying. So then a goal like that just takes.
We hit the bar in the first half, and all. We hit the bar, and I always knew if we scored first in that game, we would have won it, because I hope and believe it would have filled the boys with just clinging on to something. It would have just, what's the word? The adrenaline would have taken them through, and we would have been so hard to break down and beat. But the minute they get added up and then you're chasing the game and more spaces becomes available on the pitch, that's when it turns into 2 or 3. Because you've got to go and chase the game. It's a cup game. More spaces become available, and it's kind of just, as soon as the second comes in, it's just a bit, it's demoralising.
I was watching it on Twitter. I was getting like the wee updates. That was my next thing. There must be some way that you can video these games so that I can get watching them.
Yeah, definitely. We use a thing called VO.
Right.
And I can. So basically, have you heard of VO before?
You use it when
you camera that films a game without a cameraman. Yeah, so we use that. So I can send you a login, and it's got all our games on there, 18's games on there, and everything. You can have a look at them, definitely.
Oh, definitely. I'd like to have a look at that, because I don't know when I'm going to get done next. But obviously, as I say, we come down in the summer holidays, I end up just getting the shitey friendlies, and then the season starts.
Pre-season.
So obviously the podcast is called Time for Heroes, and what I do at the end is the guest gets to pick their heroes to come for a dinner party, and you get to cook them something, depending how good a cook you are. So fire away with who your heroes are and why.
Yeah, good one. I was obviously speaking to my partner about it. When you messaged me on Twitter, and it's like, I can imagine why people get stuck on that one, to be honest. Me, there's two. I've got my grandparents.
Just ignore it.
Yeah.
They just try and patch it.
I've got my grandparents. A reason for that is, apart from my mum's mum, they all died very early in my life. I've got no real fond memories of them. And obviously, my dad spoke so highly of his mum and dad. I would love to have just seen them grow up a little bit more. My mum's dad died maybe when I was about 13, so again, no fond memories of him. So just to have more time with them and for them to experience and see what I've achieved in my life, I would love for that to happen. Listen, I'm not cooking for anyone unless they can have beans on toast. It would have to be a takeaway.
Yeah.
So a takeaway of them would be brilliant. I'd love that opportunity. And the second one was not real anyone, but I'd love to sit down with a founder of a big company, someone like a Jeff Bezos, because something I've done over the last 5 or 6 years, I've come kind of fascinated with business and making money and things like that, and just how big that, because what the fascination is of them things once started tiny and they've obviously snowballed and become massive, like a KFC and McDonald's, all them big firms, of how it was just once an idea and then it's turned into, like Jeff Bezos started in a garage, didn't he, with his Amazon, and now what that's worth. So just to sit down and be able to talk to them about business and how it snowballed, and because I've obviously a small coaching company, this over the last 5 years, that again, it's grown massively. But when you're in it, you don't really see it happening, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I'd love to just sit down with a massive founder of a huge company and say, from the start of a bit being an idea to where it is now, just to be able to talk business, really. I'd love the opportunity. A strange one, probably, I know.
No, these are good ones because they're different.
I just find it fascinating. Like, I speak to my partner a lot. I'm a dreamer. She says she's a realist. Like, if you said to someone, I'm gonna start at McDonald's, they laugh at you, don't they? But once upon a time, that started as one little burger shop, and I just find that fascinating. Like, for me, I sit there every night and to my partner, I'm like, I want to start this, I want to start that, I want to do this. I mean, all these ideas are mad crazy, and she's like, don't be stupid, you don't know nothing about food, or you don't know nothing about this. And it's like, someone's got to start somewhere. So no, I just love the opportunity to start with them people and just chat to them about how that's turned out so successful. A lot of people say superstars, don't they? Although I've always loved football, I've never been fascinated with footballers. Never. Maybe because I think maybe once I was close to becoming that, if that makes sense.
Right.
I just never been fascinated by footballers. Like, when people want to get photos with them and things like that, I hate all that. Like, they're just human beings with a lot of money. I think to build businesses, I'd rather sit down with a businessman and talk about someone that's had to really graft and go from dark days to get to where they are now. I just find that fascinating.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's something completely different. Everybody usually picks Liam Gallagher. So
sorry?
Everybody usually says Liam Gallagher or John Lennon. So to have something different is top notch, and you're just going to phone in a takeaway.
Yeah, no cooking here, that's for sure.
Well, that's just about it. Just one question, actually, before we go. Obviously, you're a teacher and you're manager of Three Bridges. So what do you find harder? Who do you find it harder to manage, this group of players or your pupils?
Three Bridges all day long. All day. Kids are great. I love kids, and I seem to have this knack of being able to have kids here at the palm of my hand. I've always got their attention. I can capture their imagination, and off I go. Whereas I speak to my assistant all the time, managing 16 blokes with 16 different jobs that have all had 16 different days graft with egos and different personality. It's tough, really tough. It's something, again, that I'm enjoying learning about, because I'm massive on like culture and identity and things off the pitch that kind of get forgotten about a lot of the time. I try to bring that into the club of signing the right people and being good humans before being good players, which I don't think is done too often. lot of people are signing him, he's great, but it's like, what's he like as a person? What does he do for work? What's his family like? I try and dive a little bit deeper into the background before. But yeah, definitely Bridges with all that going on, that's for sure.
Right. And lastly, where do you see yourself by the end of the season? Because your kind of results have kind of been a bit indifferent due to the cup run. So what do you see yourself doing for now to the end of the season?
For me, I say the same to Chairman, same time to everyone. For me, we just got to achieve more points than we did last year, which means we're progressing. We've got 44 points last year. If we get to 50 this year, it'll be great. And that's one thing that I'm struggling with now is we really struggle with consistency. 1 week we're great, 1 week we're awful. But when you look at it, that's children. They're still kids, a lot of them. So it's hard to find that consistency of that. But yeah, end of the season, if we finish top 10, 50 plus points, that's a great year for us in terms of where we should be in terms of finances and things like that.
Well, that's brilliant. I hope you can achieve that. And I'll keep following for afar, but I'll try and get a hold of this link that you're going to give me.
Yeah, definitely. Next time you're down, give us a shout. We'll meet for a beer down there, definitely.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jamie, for coming on the podcast.
That's all right, no worries at all.
I'll speak to you later.
Top man, bud. Take it easy.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.